Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great story about my failed suicide attempt. If you clicked on this video, you probably just want to hear the story, that's why you clicked on it. But since I haven't made a video in a while, I just wanted to make some, I hope quick channel updates. So what I would then ask is, if anybody watches, bothers to watch through the whole video, if you leave a comment or some shit saying the story starts at whatever time I end up actually starting it, so other people can watch, because I just don't feel like doing it. Yeah. So anyway, I have not made a video in a while, and the main reason, I guess there's two reasons. One is I had been going through a series of just seemingly unrelated health problems. First it was some weird sickness where I didn't have a fever, but I was definitely felt sick, and it lasted for 2 weeks. And then after that, actually, you know what? I might have actually been making videos during that, so maybe that's not wrong. Then after that, I started I had got hit with this series of teeth problems because I recently had some teeth work done, and at the end of 2020, I got some teeth work done, and it just went terribly wrong, and it took months for it to get completely straightened out. And then also general just allergy problems. The thing though with the teeth stuff, there was two different things I ended up. Not only was I stressed out from the teeth pain that I had, but I was taking those really hard, what are they, Percocets or something is what they're called, the really hardcore narcotic painkillers. And then after that, I was taking these steroid things. And then before that, when they thought I had an infection, it got misdiagnosed as an infection. I'd been taking antibiotics, and I'm really sensitive to medication, and all of those things really, fucked me up and put me in for a loop. I think the steroids might have done me in the worst. That was the last thing that I did, and coming off that, I was dealing with some really bad depression, and including, 3 days, was it 3 days ago or 4 days ago now? I can't remember. The night of three nights ago or 4 nights ago, whenever it was I really think, and I've been really stretching my mind to try to figure this out, I think it was the worst point of my life. I think it was the absolute lowest point I've ever been. The depression was so horrendous, and I will say that to anybody out there who is thinking they're they're really insecure, or they really hate themselves or something, or they're depressed maybe because they can't get a girlfriend or whatever, any type of stuff that you hear incels or black pillars or really anybody complain about that stuff. Go through serious ultra depression, and I promise you won't care about any of that shit. When you're really depressed, there's you kind of have to experience it to know what it's like, and that will immediately get rid of all of your insecurities, because all you will want is for the pain to stop. And then, but the weird thing is that once the pain does stop and you get relief, the insecurities come back instantly. You don't even get a 2-second break. They all immediately come back. Of course, you might have different perspective, because you're just to be oh well, I can live with hating myself if it's not at least I'm not being my soul isn't being tortured, which is what it feels like. Yeah, but anyway, I'll probably talk about depression, about my battles with depression, which really seem to be going really well now. I think that that was my low point, but I really feel pretty good right now. And so I do want to make a video about depression, but going through it, it inspired me. It made me want to make a video telling the story about my suicide attempt. But before I get into that, just a couple things about the channel. There has been a few comments that I've seen that, like, I'm seeing them in my notifications and then they're not getting posted. And I just want everybody to know that, you know, for the most part, like, I want to just let people have their say. Like, theoretically, I would, you know, delete a comment if I thought it was, you know, just disruptive. If I thought that, like, it was disruptive, I would do that. But it's never actually happened. There's only been one comment that I ever deleted, and that was because it involved scat. And, like, that's something that I have, like, no tolerance for because I get grossed out really easily. And it's just, like, that's, like, in fact, even thinking about it now pisses me off. So that I absolutely will delete. If you say, although that's only happened one time. But, other than that, I don't know, like, because it seems like it's happening more often than not, that I'm getting notifications of comments and then they're not getting posted. So now a couple of them, I think that there was probably trigger words in them, like, especially like any profanity probably, you know, triggers it. But, like, there was at least one where I just can't figure out why the YouTube thing censored it. And it's not like it's in the held for review queue either. It's just not there. It's just not showing up. So I can't explain it. So I guess I'm just kind of defending myself here and saying, like, you know, it's not me deleting your comments. It's YouTube doing it. So, you know, take it up with YouTube. And, no, I'd rather, I mean, I would, like I said earlier, I would rather have, like, even if you're saying something that I don't like, I would prefer to just err on the side of letting people say what they want. So yeah, the other thing is just about, I think maybe some people are probably, you know, either concerned or disappointed that there hasn't been as much content. And the truth is, it isn't all because of my health problems and depression. When I had started this channel, I've mentioned this before. You know, when I had started this channel, I intended it. I can't even remember what I intended it to be about, but I expected the main thing I planned on focusing on was politics. I also planned on doing some stuff about fitness and retro video games. I stumbled into the black pill stuff by accident, and I stuck with it because there were a lot of subjects to explore, and because it was a good way to get a lot of views. You know, the problem obviously is that there's only so much you can say about the black pill at some point. And, you know, I don't ever want to be forcing content, and you guys really don't want to see forced content, because all of us have had YouTubers whose content that we enjoyed, and we've seen them decline because they just didn't have anything left to say, and they started to really force it, and they started creating content for the sake of creating content. How are we doing for time? Oh my God. Okay, I'm already doing horrible for time. I haven't even gotten to the story. So I don't ever want it to get to that way. You know, like, so the stuff that people I think are most interested in is the black pill stuff. And I probably do have more black pill stuff to say. I really think I've got at least one left in me. But I'm not going to get up here and just repeat myself for its own sake. The political stuff, that political stuff has always been something that I kind of just made for me because it was, like, therapeutic for me to get it out. And, but with the stabilization of the political situation, I don't feel this urge to really talk about it. And you guys all hated the political videos anyway. And I'm not saying there won't be other political videos, but you're not going to see, like, I was putting out tons of them in between the election and, you know, the aftermath of the election and and Biden getting in and shit like that. Right now, the situation is stabilized, so they're probably, again, there'll probably be political videos in the future, but they will be less. Now, this video, I'm assuming that it's not going to really get good views because the YouTube algorithm probably isn't going to like it, and I don't really think people are going to be too interested in this story. But I think some people will. Like, I think some of like my hardcore fans might, but I think that most people, hardcore viewers at least, maybe not fans isn't the right word, but if there like if there is like if it does get good views, maybe I will do some other stories. If you know, if I think that they, you know, because it's tough to make a video if you know, like I said, for the political videos, I was more doing it for myself. But other than that, it's kind of like it's tough to make a video if you know while you're making it that it's not going to get good views. So yeah. So anyway, here we are. What, 10 minutes in? Yeah, sorry about that, guys. So here's the story, though, of my suicide attempt. Now, to be clear, this is not a recent thing. Okay, I can say with this happened when I was 23. I'm 37 now, so it would have been almost 14 years ago now that this happened. Since my failed attempt, and we could even debate whether it was even a failed attempt or just a chicken out. You can decide for yourselves. I call it a failed attempt, but you could say whatever you could say whatever you want. I can honestly say that I have never considered it since. Which is not to say that there have been times that I wished this would end or that I would die or anything like that. I have had times where things have gotten bad enough that I would wish that, for instance, a few days ago, but I never thought of actually like doing myself in. So, all right, so we're going to start with a little bit of background before we get into it. Sometime in the middle of college, so in my early 20s, I developed or got really depressed, although that's probably the wrong word because I'll talk about this later, how there's a difference between depression and sadness. But for this, let's just use the words depression and sadness interchangeably here. So I got really depressed in my early 20s. Now, the simple thing to say what I was depressed about would be my looks, but that's not totally true. It's to the point that, I mean, like I can say it because that was like a big part of it, but there was another part of it too that was, it's tough to say if it was equally important, more important. It's just hard to say. There was another part of it that's really what made me, because like right now there's times like where I'll feel bad about my looks or whatever, but it's just kind of like what, you know, it's more like, let's go back. Let's dial back in. If it was just about my looks, I wouldn't have felt great, but it wouldn't have made me suicidally depressed. It was my looks plus this other factor. And I am not going to say what the other factor is. I've never told it to anybody, even my therapist. Never told it to anybody in my family, and I never will, as long as I live. This is one thing, and I'm not good at keeping secrets. I talk about everything. I will never say what the other factor was. But anyway, it was these things together. But however, I think it's fair to say that the basis of it was looks. Was that, I hated the way I looked. I felt really bad about the way I looked. And that was the basis of it, even if there was this other undisclosed factor that was an issue. This, like I said, started in my early 20s. Became very depressed about this. And had this hopeless, depressed feeling. And it was that kind of like depression mixed with just an absence of all hope that I first started thinking about, like, maybe I can just get out of all this. Maybe I can just end all this. And this actually coincided with, around the same time I developed an interest in like the paranormal, psychic phenomena, UFOs and the afterlife stuff, from like near-death experiences. And to the point where, I felt like dying really would provide not just relief, but also a chance to live a kind of better life on the other side, And so that's really when I started thinking about it, and I started researching ways to do it. My early 20s, so I was still in college at this time. So we're talking about like years where I was thinking about this. Thinking about like, could I do this? How would I go about doing it? Looking up different ways to do it. But I never really felt inspired to pull the trigger. Metaphorically or literally. I don't own a gun. So, I just, because, there was still something, I was still like, I was able to kind of throw myself into my interest. Again, like I said, I was really interested in the paranormal, so I was able to kind of throw myself into my interest over that. And of course, at the time, I don't like football anymore, but at the time I was really interested in football, and I was able to really focus on that. So I was able to distract myself with my copes, Then, okay, so what happened, but it was always like in the back of my mind, spending a lot of time thinking about it, thinking about different ways to do it. Never got to the point where I was concretely planning it, though. Just, thinking about it. Then there was, I was working this job, this, weird alarm monitoring job, where, my shift was usually from 11 p.m. till 9 a.m. And it's like the easiest job in the world. You would come in, I'd bring my laptop, and you would use the company's Wi-Fi, and I would just surf the web the entire night. And then like an alarm would come in like a few times an hour, and all you had to do was call the person up. It was kind of like, I kind of considered it like the perfect job, because you really didn't have to do anything. Although the nocturnal schedule eventually began to have some problems, cause some problems. But also, I just got sick of them calling me in all the time. They were always calling me in, and it was fucking annoying. And then, so anyway, there was this one day that they called me in, they tried to call me in. And I just said, no, I'm not coming in. So then the guy who called me said, hey, the manager said that she's going to fire you for not coming in. So I was like, all right, well, whatever. I didn't give a shit. But my mom, who I was living with at the time, flipped out. And she was like, no, you got to do whatever you can. You got to go and apologize to her or whatever, which I was never going to do. So, but anyway, the thing is, so I went there to go check to see, did I really get fired? And actually, it turns out that I hadn't gotten fired, but there was some miscommunication, and I thought that I had, because I was getting the job through I was working the job through a temp agency. I wasn't actually an employee of them. I was an employee of the temp agency. They were paying me through that. But there was some miscommunication with the temp agency, where I thought that the temp agency said that I was fired. And so I told my mom about that. I said, no, they said that I'm fired. And she said, no, you gotta go, call your boss, send her flowers, do whatever you have to do. And I was like, yeah, okay. But I wasn't going to do that. But the thing is, I also had no money. So the thing is, well, I can't really live with my mom anymore, because, I didn't really talk about this, but we got in a huge fight over this. So I was like, well, I can't live with my mom anymore, and I've got no job, and I can't support myself, and I have no money. So, maybe I should just end this and get out of all this. And, yeah, because I remember when I called my mom and told her this, and we had talked over the phone, and she actually seriously suggested sending flowers to my boss to try to make her reconsider, firing me. And so then when I got off the phone with her, I just thought about everything, and I was like, dude, I've been wanting to do this for years anyway. Now is a great time. Let's just. I am sick of this shit. So I stopped at I drove home and stopped at a 7-Eleven that's near my house. And I got, can't remember if I got any Can't remember if I got any food, but I remember I got 2 root beers because I still drank root beer back then. 2 like those big plastic bottle root beers, not the kinds in a can. And so I come home to the house, right? And I'm already starting to get a bit of anxiety. Like, like, wow, like, because I've been thinking about it for a while, but it's one thing to be thinking about it. It's another thing to actually be facing it. I'm like, wow, this is it. This is, I'm going to die soon. So I go into my house, and I see my brother's there. And my brother had been up at college, so I don't know what he was doing back. And I can't remember if he was there with his girlfriend or what. And but we just said hi, exchanged pleasantries and stuff, and then and then he left. And I just remember thinking like, wow, it's weird that that's the last time I'm ever gonna see him. And I didn't think at the time that like it didn't even occur to me at the time like I wonder like how he would feel about like knowing that he saw me like minutes before I killed myself and not realizing that anything was wrong. It just didn't occur to me at all. I didn't think about it one way or the other. In fact, it didn't occur to me until like years later, like 13 years later when I told him the story for the first time that like I just didn't think about how it would affect the other people in my life. I really didn't. I didn't think how it would affect him. I didn't think about how it would affect my mom. I didn't think sister probably wouldn't have really cared, but I didn't think about how it would have affected her either. It was nothing like I wasn't thinking like I wanted to hurt anybody. I wasn't thinking about it like I didn't want to hurt. I just literally was not thinking about anybody one way or the other. And this is like I remember when I was a kid in health class, they educated us a lot about suicide. And one thing that our teacher had told us was that most people who commit suicide don't leave a note. And I remember I was a freshman in high school hearing that, being like, you didn't leave a note. Why not? Like I couldn't do like, how could you not leave a note? Of course you would leave. Like, of course you would want to leave a note, right? To, to say your goodbyes or to explain why you did it or something. And the thing is, when I was going through this, I can tell you, like, the thought of leaving a note did not even occur to me. I wasn't thinking about it at all. It just seemed so irrelevant. I wasn't going to be here anyway. It wasn't going to be my problem anymore. So anyway, I had been researching a lot of suicide methods. And, the thing is, killing yourself is it's really not easy, especially if you're not a very courageous person. I don't consider myself a coward. However, I am, and I still don't feel like I have a very strong fear of death. I mean, I might if I was facing it right then and there, but I have a very serious, like probably worse than most people's, fear of pain. Like, pain scares the shit out of me, physical pain. So that was the main thing that I wanted, is I wanted a suicide with the minimum of physical pain. And, ideally, some peaceful suicide pill, but they don't sell them in supermarkets and shit. So I had looked into drug overdosing, but it seemed like too potentially messy, very, very potentially painful. And, I didn't really have access to a lot of drugs that would work for it. So if I wanted to commit suicide, it would have to have been with something like Advil or something, which means you're just taking enough to try to cause liver failure, and which can be extremely painful. So didn't have the guts for that. So what I settled on was hanging. Now I wouldn't have had when you hang yourself, there's 2 different ways you can do it. There's what I think most people probably think of, which is, cutting off your air supply. And to do that, what you would want to do is tie your hands behind your back, tie a noose, and I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for YouTube or this kind of thing, and, like step off, kick off something, so then, and then you struggle there, and then you'll die from lack of oxygen. But there's another way to do it, and that's to cut off the circulation, like they do in if you ever see those people who accidentally die of autoerotic asphyxiation, because what they're doing is when they're jerking off or whatever, they're not cutting off their air, they're cutting off the blood to their brain. So, and this is how, like, some people in hospitals who are bedridden in hospitals will commit suicide. They'll do it by leaning, like tying something, instead of leaning forward to cut off the air, they'll lean back to cut off the blood, to cut off the circulation. So anyway, so after my brother left, I was there down on the downstairs computer, and the downstairs family computer, and I was definitely getting nervous, starting to shake and stuff. I couldn't drink much of my root beer, and I remember I was doing something on the internet to at least check something. I guess I was going to use the internet one last time, but I can't remember what it was. So my brother left, and at some point I was like, all right, time to do this. And I don't know if you guys can tell it, but as I'm retelling the story, I'm like re-feeling the emotions of how scared I was. So I go up to the attic, and I take a necktie, and I go to, I think it was the bathroom in the attic. We have a bathroom in our attic, and I kind of close the door behind me, and I make like a noose out of the necktie to tie around like this, and then tie the other end to the doorknob in the bathroom. And so I'm sitting down, right? So I'm sitting down, and then, sitting down here, I'm going to show you guys my ugly-ass profile. Sitting down here, tied like that. Then the necktie is tied to the doorknob. And then I guess without noticing it, I just stuck my glasses behind me, and go to lean back, because that's what you're going to lean back and cut off the circulation that way. And then the first time I leaned back right onto my glasses and completely ruined the glasses. And I remember looking at them and just thinking well, I guess I won't be needing them anymore anyway. So I just kind of pushed them to the side and go to do it again. And so I'm leaning back, and the pressure starts building. And I can feel it, and I'm scared because I know what's coming, and then it starts to really fucking hurt. You see, basically what I was doing is, if you ever see UFC and they're choking the other guy out, if they kept choking, when they're choking a guy out, they're not cutting off his air, they're cutting off his blood circulation. So that's why they'll go and they're just fighting, and then eventually they'll start to tap out. But if they don't tap out in time, what happens is they'll pass out. And but I didn't think it would be as painful as it was, because what it does is it creates this sensation of pressure, on these parts of the back of your head, where it feels like it's about to explode. And it's not like it's the most painful thing in the world. It's not. Although I guess I didn't get far enough to know how much worse it was going to get. But it's enough that it's that, with that plus, how fucking scary it is just so anyway, I was doing that. I did it for as long, and then I panicked. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm too scared. And, when feeling the pressure, feeling the reality, I think that was really kind of what got me into it, is feeling the reality of the pressure. If it had truly been painless, I think I would have died. But the pressure was more than I expected. The pressure and pain was more than I expected, and it freaked me out, and it scared me into not doing it. So, I was sleep deprived at the time, and tired. So, I just realized I couldn't do it, and there was a bed in the attic. So I went and I took a long nap. It's just not only was I tired, but it was a means of escape. And then when I woke up, I called my mom and I told her that, that I had tried to kill myself, and she, of course, obviously was very upset. The so yeah, but anyway, the trauma of the whole thing gave me like this nervous breakdown. They put me on. At the time, I wasn't on any medication, so at first they put me on these like antipsychotic meds, which I didn't need and did absolutely nothing. And then they tried, just a standard antidepressant. An antidepressant that I am still on today. For the first week, or first almost week, didn't do shit. Then they upped the dose, and it was like a light switch went off, and I was like, it wasn't even a week. I think I was on like the low dose for like 3 days or some shit. And then once they upped the dose, I was like, totally recovered. I didn't even have to end up missing a day of work. Because ironically, this had all happened during a time where I had like 4 days in a row off. Yeah, it was. So yeah. No, I didn't have to get institutionalized or anything like that. One thing that's kind of interesting is that, I had this, like electronic horoscope done, once. And, I wish I still had it probably doesn't exist anymore because it still had the address of where I got it. But the cool thing about getting like an electronic horoscope is the computer isn't like reading your facial cues or anything. It's just taking in your information and spitting it back out at you. And it said that between the ages of 18 and 26, you will have 2 nervous breakdowns, one of which may lead to a suicide attempt. And that's true. I also had a nervous breakdown when I was 17, so I guess it was off by a little bit. And then I had that second nervous breakdown, and which did in fact lead to that suicide attempt. So yeah, man, it was. But it's I still have kind of like a sort of like a fascination with suicide. And don't misunderstand that. It's not like, like I would I think that obviously I'm not going to judge somebody who commits suicide, especially after I did it myself. But I believe that suicide is morally wrong. And me, anyway, I've got this like very big survivor's guilt. This is related to my like I mentioned, my fear of pain, and I think about all the people who've lived from since the dawn of since people have existed, and just the physical pain that so many people have gone through, and the kind of suffering that people have gone through. And like I already feel guilty as it is that they've gone through so much that I haven't. And with that being the case, I would feel like I don't even have the right to kill myself, because my suffering is nothing compared to what people have been, hundreds of millions, billions of people have lived through for so long, and way worse than anything I've ever been through. Although I do think that what I went through a few nights ago was probably up there, at least for me. It's tough to say. Some things are more acute, some things are more dragged out. So no, I would never commit suicide. But having said that, and then I'll say one other thing about it. That's kind of on the same thing about it. At the time, like even after like I had failed the suicide attempt, I still wanted to die. And I still wanted to die for like the next 3 days before my meds got 3 or 4 days before my meds got upped and I started to feel better. But I just didn't have the guts to do it. And honestly, I think that even if I had access to a firearm, I wouldn't have had the guts to do that either. Now, what I would have had the guts to do was take, what they call a peaceful pill, like a pill that just painlessly kills you. And I remember at the time thinking, like, how strongly I believe that they should just sell suicide pills. They should be allowed to just sell suicide pills in supermarkets, And if you're depressed, you can end it. You could end it that way. And I'm certainly happy now that they didn't. They didn't have that, and I strongly don't believe it. And even now, I don't support medically assisted suicide even for the terminally ill. Now, I'm not passing judgment, but I think it's a slippery slope and it's very dangerous. And So, but having said that, if such a thing existed, it would make me feel more secure, to know that, because now when I get stressed out or panicked, or for instance, like a few nights ago when the depression was really bad, knowing that suicide wasn't an option for me because I didn't have the guts to do it was made me feel more trapped and more anxious. Whereas if I knew that like I had it as an option, that would give me more strength to like face, whatever problems I have. It's this feeling of being trapped though is real. Probably the scariest thing I've ever dealt with. And but anyway, that gets back to what I said about this like sort of fascination with suicide. So even though like I would never commit suicide, what I would like is to have the ability, like I want it to be that no matter what happens to me, that I'm living because I want to live, not because I'm afraid to kill myself. So like if I could like develop the courage to kind of deal with these things, I think it would actually make me feel better to know that was like, well, at least I'm not trapped, And because right now I'm fine because I'm not depressed or anything. And, and hopefully it won't happen again. But, if I do get it from a depression attack again, or an anxiety attack again, or like something happens and I lose all my money and, I'm out there on the street and can't support myself, I would like to know that there was a way out. It would make me, like I said, it would make me feel better, and it would give me the courage to face what I needed to better without this, claustrophobic trap feeling. So, I'm working on it. There are things, to do to meditation to try to, to be less scared, of things and stuff. One thing though is, when I was, when my suicide attempt, I had thought that, after I died, I was going to a better place. And now, I don't think it's going to be all over, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm going to a better place. Maybe it's going to be a worse place. So that's like, that would be one thing that I would never, especially since, I believe that, suicide is morally wrong. I don't necessarily think I know in the standard Western Christian view is that if you kill yourself, you go to hell forever. I don't believe that, but I do think it's wrong to do it, in that there also your mind state when you cross over can make things worse for you. And obviously, if you kill yourself, you're in a bad mind state. So So yeah, yeah. So, but anyway, I mean, I guess even though it's kind of maybe it didn't seem uplifting, it is kind of a happy ending because things did end up working out for me, and honestly, I'm better off for having it all happen the way it did. Like I can genuinely say that it can be really insulting, especially to say to somebody that to say to people that everything happens for the good, because there's some things that we just we'll never be able to see the good in. Um, but for me, just like for me individually, like I'm better off for having gone through this, and I am happy it happened. Uh, and I think it's helped me, and that I learned from it and grew from it. So that's all for now, and I'll see you in the next.